Okay, so what I was trying to say is we want to look at how the sensitivity of investment to interest rate affects changes in income resulting from changes in the interest rate. Okay, so we are taking two investment schedules. One, the steeper one, this one was where investment was less sensitive to changes in interest rates. Okay, you let's only talk about that one first. So initially, the level of interest rate was R1, and then the investment level was I1. Okay, so when we come here using the leakages and then injection, I1 was equal to S1 with the level of income of Y1. When we come to the IS schedule, you see, what you have to know is at times the questions would demand you to draw all these. So after doing the maths, you have to come and draw all these things. So you have to know how to translate them moving from here to here to here. So the initial equilibrium was A, where R1 resulted in an income level of Y1. Now there's a fall in interest rate from R1 to R2. But because the investment is less sensitive to changes in interest rate, the change in investment was very small, just from I1 to I2, what we have here. So when we go to the leakages and injections, the change was very small, just from here to here, okay? From here to here. And that was seen as an increase in income from Y1 to Y2. So when you come to the IS curve, this is the initial interest rate, and the corresponding equilibrium income was Y1. And the fall, look at this big fall in interest rate, but it's just causing this small change in uh, income. Okay, so because investment is less sensitive to interest rates, income too is less sensitive to interest rate. This is what we are trying to say. That the sensitivity of income to interest rates from the IS schedule depends on how sensitive investment is to changes in interest rate. So if investment is less sensitive to interest rate, then the income level too will be less sensitive to interest rates. I hope we understand this one.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the one where investment is very sensitive to changes in interest rates. So with this one, with a fall in interest rate from R1 to R2, investment increase from I1 to I2 prime. So I'm sure you can see the vast change in investment. Okay, when you come to the leakages and injections graph, because of the fall in interest rates, investment has increased from this point to this point, and that is resulting in this change in Y. You see the big change in Y, all because investment is more sensitive to changes in interest rate. So when you come to the IS curve, now this is where we were Y1, but because investment is more sensitive to changes in interest rate, now income too is more sensitive to changes in interest rate. So the new level of equilibrium income is Y2 prime. Okay, so moving from Y1 to Y2 prime is way bigger than moving from Y1 to Y2. So this means that the sensitivity of income to changes in interest rate from the IS curve depends on the sensitivity of investment to changes in interest rate. Is that okay? Do we understand?
Yes.
Okay. Can we continue? Okay. So we want to derive the IS curve. Okay. I'm sure you remember this. Okay. Aggregate expenditure should be equal to the output line just to get equilibrium. Okay. So let's start from here. Let's start from ZZ. ZZ was the initial aggregate expenditure with interest rate with investment I. Okay, with investment I. So this was the equilibrium point A, and then output Y. So we want to derive our IS curve. So when the interest rate was I, this I, the level of output was Y. Okay, now there there is there's an increase in the level of interest rate, and that is going to cause the aggregate expenditure to fall. Okay, because investment is going to fall. Okay, when interest rate increases, aggregate expenditure falls. And why is it falling? It's falling because of the fall in the level of investment. So when aggregate expenditure falls, that is seen as a shift in the aggregate expenditure curve. So this is going to be the new level of equilibrium with this y, this the new y. So tracing this to the IS curve with an increase in interest rate from I to I prime, the level of equilibrium fell from A to A prime, and that was seen as a fall in equilibrium income from Y to Y prime. So when we join these 2 points, we are getting our ISK. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. And so, looking at the nature of the ISK, it is telling us of the inverse relationship between interest rate and then the level of output or income. Okay, when interest rate rises, output falls, and vice versa. Okay, all right. So this is what we jumped. Okay, so now what if they add government expenditure and then the taxes? They add government expenditure and then tax, which means that now our injection is this, the sum of investment and government expenditure, and then this is our leakages. Okay, the analysis is the same thing. When interest rates rises, it's just going to affect the level of investment, assuming there's an increase in there's a reduction in interest rates. This is going to be seen as an increase in the level of investment, which means that this whole part is going to be greater than this part. Okay, this government expenditure is taken as autonomous, T2 is taken as autonomous. So before equilibrium can be restored, then savings must what? Must increase. And how can savings increase? Savings can only increase if there's an increase in income. So when there's a fall in the level of uh, interest rates, there's a disequilibrium in the product market. So before equilibrium must be restored, income must increase. When income increases, then there's going to be an increase in savings so that the equilibrium can be restored. Are we together?
Not really.
What I'm trying to say is, uh, I'm sure they have the diagram. Maybe when we use the diagram, we understand that one better. We cry near crowd. See, what I'm trying to say is you have I and then J being equal to S and then T, right? So this is the injections and then this is the leakages, okay? Now, there is a fall in interest rate, Okay. As soon as there's a fall in interest rate, there's a disequilibrium in the market. This is the equilibrium condition. Okay. But when interest rate falls, now you just assuming investment was 50, government expenditure too was, let's say, 50, so this whole part was 100, savings too was 50, tax too was 50. Okay, we cannot control gene. This is a fiscal policy thing. And then T2. Okay, so now when interest rate falls, there's going to be a disequilibrium because the fall in interest rate is going to cause an increase in investment. So just assuming now investment is 70, because of the increase in interest rate, it means that the injection is going to be 120, which is greater than the leakage, which is still what, 100, which means that there's a disequilibrium in the market. So before equilibrium must be restored, savings must increase. And how can we increase savings? We can only increase savings when there is an increase in the level of income. So to restore equilibrium, income must be increased. We need to increase the level of output, okay, so that the savings will go up to come and restore equilibrium. So the fall in interest rates has caused an increase in y, has caused an increase. That's why there's an inverse relationship between interest rate and then y. Whenever interest rate changes, there's a disequilibrium in the market. So it's through output that we are able to restore equilibrium. Okay, investment has increased, so it is causing the injections to be more than the leakages. Okay, which means that we need to increase y. If we have more income, we can increase our savings so that the leakages too can move up. Is that okay?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I understand.
Please, do we all understand?
Yes.
Okay, so now let's look at the diagram. Okay, let's say that initially there was no uh, a gene, and then there was no T. So this is where the investment schedule would have been at. So at this point, and then this would have been our savings schedule. Savings is a function of disposable income. Now we've added gene, so at the same interest rate, the injection curve what was shaped to the right. So this is going to be the new curve for injection. Okay. And then this will be the new curve for savings because there's an increase in tax too. Okay. There's an increase in tax. So the analysis is still the same thing. If in, interest rate should increase, okay, it is going to affect the level of investment. So investment must increase. When investment increases, J is constant, tax rate is constant. So what should happen? Hey, did I say there's an increase in interest rate? If I said that there was an increase in interest, then this is where we are starting from. So this was the initial level of investment and the initial level of savings. G and T are constant. That's why they don't have any substrate. So now with an increase in the level of interest rate, is going to cause what? A reduction in investment from I0 to I1. Okay, so to restore equilibrium, savings must fall also. But how can savings fall? Savings can fall if there's a fall in income. That's why the income has to fall from Y0 to Y1 so that savings too can fall to restore equilibrium. If there's a further increase in interest rate from R1 to R2, investment will fall again. Savings will now be more than investment, which means that savings must fall. And savings can only fall if there's a fall in income. So income will fall again to Y2 so that equilibrium can be restored. When we trace this to the IS curve, when interest rate was R0, Y was Y0 with an increase in investment fall, so Y has to fall to Y1 with a further increase in interest rates. There will be a further decrease in the level of income. Okay, so whether we are adding government activities or not, the analysis is still the same thing. Please, do we understand?
Yes.
Crystal, do you understand?
Say, yes, please, I do. I do.
Albinium, okay.
Hello,
Yeah,
hello, sir.
yeah,
Please have a question.
okay.
Please, are you trying to say that as interest rates increases, income also increases?
Come again.
Please, are you trying to say that as interest rates increases, income also increases?
Oh, no, 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 no. See, when interest rate was R0, okay, investment was I0, and this was the level of income. Okay, that was the level of income. Now there's an increase in interest rate. Because of the increase in interest rate, there's a fall in investment from I0 to I1. This means that investment is falling. And as a result, this is the new equilibrium. And this is the new level of Y. There's a fall in Y from Y0 to Y1. So Y has fallen. Okay, so the increase in R is causing a fall in Y. When you come to the IS curve, this was R0 and Y was Y0. With an increase in interest rate, there was a fall in Y. So they move in opposite direction. Audrey, is that okay?
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay. Yara, any question? Do you understand?
I understand.
Audrey Mensah?
Please understand.
Okay. Then I think we can move on. What causes the IS curve to shift? What can cause the IS curve to shift? So it can shift when there's a change in tax or when there's a change in government spending, which means that the IS curve can shift only when there's a change in the autonomous components. Okay, when there's a change in G, IS curve will shift, and then when there's a change in T2, the IS curve will shift. So now, just assuming there's an increase in government spending, its effect is just the same as when there is a decrease in tax. Okay, when you increase government expenditure, the effect is the same as when you decrease your tax. Okay, when government expenditure increases, it is seen as an increase in aggregate expenditure, right? Which is going to cause an increase in income at the same level of interest rate. The interest rate hasn't changed though. Let's look at the graph. We'll go back again. Now, just assuming that this was the initial uh, injection schedule, okay, with the interest rate of R0. Now there is an increase in government spending. You see that the government spending doesn't depend on interest rates. So it is seen as an exogenous change. Okay. So if there is a change in J, then even at the same interest rate of R0, the injection curve is going to shift to the right, which means that we are now going to have a higher level of injection. Okay, a higher level of injection. So as this one is moving, when we come to the IS curve, interest rate is still the same thing. Okay, but there's going to be an increase in output, and that is because of the change in government spending. But how the change in government spending is going to affect the IS curve depends on the change in the government spending and the K. Okay, and the K. Is that okay? We will do the mass on this, so we'll understand the mass part better. This one we are just looking at the graph. So when J increases, it is causing a rightward shift in the IS curve. Okay, it is causing a rightward shift in the IS curve. Now, just assuming we're starting from here at the same interest rate of R0, if there's a decrease in government spending, if there's a decrease in government spending, it's going to cause the injection schedule to shift to the left. So it will come here, and that will be seen as a leftward shift in the IS curve. Okay, so whenever there's an increase in government spending, IS curve will shift to the right. If there's a fall in government spending, the IS curve will shift to the left, which will cause a fall in income even at the same level of interest rate. Is that okay?
Yes.
Please go over again.
Okay. We are trying to look at the effect of a change in government spending or tax on the IS curve. Okay. We are starting from here. Initially, this was the level of investment, I0, and then government expenditure towards J0 with an interest rate of R0. So this was the initial IS curve, IS0. Okay. Now there's an increase in government spending. There is no change in interest rate at all. Interest rate hasn't changed, but there's a change in government spending, and that will cause a shift in the the injection schedule. Okay, even at the same interest rate, the interest rate hasn't changed, except that now there's an increase in the injection because of the increase in government spending. So that is going to cause a rightward shift in the injection schedule. Okay, so that's what we have here. So even at the same level of interest rate. So when you come to the IS curve, when it comes to the IS curve, there's no change in interest rate. Interest rate is still R0, but because of the change in government spending, there is a shift in the IS curve. Now we are getting a higher level of output, even at the same level of interest rate. But what I'm trying to tell you is this shifting the IS curve would depend on one, the change in gain, the magnitude of change in gain, and then the K. Okay, the change in Y will work through these two components. Okay, but I'm saying that we should just concentrate on the graph. When we are doing the mathematical aspect, we'll deal with this one. So whenever there's an increase in government spending, it causes the IS curve to shift to the right. But if there's a reduction too, that is going to cause the IS curve to shift to the left. Please, do you understand that?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Argument.
Hello.
Yes.
Please, how about you were talking about the R0, right?
Yes.
But how about the R1?
Oh, we can just
When there's a,
ignore this one. We can just you let's go out. Uh, okay. Okay. So just assuming that the thing is not changed. Okay. So this was the interest rate. Let's call it R star. Okay. And then this was the sum of investment and then G0. Okay, G0. This is our investment plus G. Okay. Then this is our IS curve, the initial one. So this is our level of income. Let's say Y0 with our interest rate I'll start. Okay. There is no change in interest rate, but there's an increase in government expenditure, or there's a fall in tax, which means that assuming initially the sum of investment and government expenditure was say 50, 20 from Jane, from I, and then 30 from Jane. Okay, so this is where we were, 0.50. Now there's an increase in Jane from 30 to 50, which means that the total is going to be what, 70. So now we can no more stand at 50, but we'll come and stand at where, 70. And so this is causing the drawing of a new curve, even at the same level of interest rate. So this is going to be our I, and then our Gen 1, the new level of Gen. Odumensa, are you with me?
Yes, please.
So this is what is happening, which means that when you come here, the I and then the Gen has increased, is causing an increase in Y, even at the same level of interest rate. So when you come to the IS schedule, there's no change in R. If there's a change in R, that is when we'll be moving along the same IS scale. But now the interest rate is still constant, yet there is an increase in Y resulting from the increase in J, which means that we need to draw a new IS scale. Okay. So the increase in J is causing what? A positive shift in the IS scale. Is that okay?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Any other question? That's what we just spoke about then. Okay, so I think I told you that the effect of an increase in J is the same as a fall in T, right? When you increase J, the effect on the IS curve is the same as when you reduce T. Okay, which means that when you reduce J2 is the same as when you increase tax. But what normally happens is that let's look at this one. That one is down here. This one is when there's a change in tax. Okay, assuming there's a change in tax. Now, this was the initial uh, injection schedule. Okay, initial injection schedule, and this we are not drawing a new curve because there's no change in investment. There's no change in government expenditure, and then this was our leakages curve. Okay, savings and then our tax, savings and then tax. So this was the equilibrium point. So with our Y here, now there is an increase in tax. If there's an increase in tax, this is going to be the new savings and tax schedule with the same injection schedule. There's no change in J, there's no change in investment, so this one is not changing. But the increase in tax is causing a leftward shift in the leakages schedule, okay, which means that it's causing a fall in income. So when it comes to the IS curve, even at the same level of interest rate, the IS curve is shifting from IS0 towards IS1, with equilibrium shifting from A to B, which is causing income to fall from Y0 to Y1. So the increase in tax to the effect, the magnitude of shift in the IS curve will depend on the change in T and then the K for T. Okay, but just as I said, when we are looking at the mass, we will deal with that. Okay. So whenever there's an increase in tax, it's just like when there's a decrease in government expenditure because is going to cause a leftward shift in the IS curve. Please, do we understand? Hello?
Yes, please, you understand.
Okay. Uh, I really wanted us to just do the IS today. I don't want to pump more this thing. So what I want you to do is